I'm Sheila Hamilton with Kink Radio, here with Logan Lynn from Trillium Family Services and Israel from Blind Pilot. Hello, good friend. It's so nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
It's been so long since we've heard new music from Blind Pilot, and I know part of the reason was a kind of traumatic thing and part was a joy thing with other band members. Yeah. You guys have been through a lot of transition.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, like you mentioned, Luke and Katie had a baby. I mean, every member went through a lot of things. Personally, my dad was diagnosed with cancer a few years ago, and I was able to help him through that sickness and eventually his death. And so, yeah, that's a big part of why the album took so long to come.
And all of those emotions are really nuanced into this album. It occurs to me that there's not enough of these albums that really speak to our emotions of sadness and grief and loss and trauma.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I thought with this album it could be an invitation and a conversation about these things that I think we have a difficult time talking about in our culture.
Sure.
And these things are so much better and richer when we can share them. So.
Yeah. I notice so much of this band's, I think, what I want to call authenticity is because you have all known one another for so long now, and you deal with what you're dealing with in terms of relational stuff and in terms of happiness, grief, really out in the open. Do you think that's part of the reason that the sound is so pure and so good?
Yeah, well, thank you. I think that it's hard to say. It's kind of a mysterious thing what makes your sound your sound. Like, you can try to sound other ways, but at the end of the day, you sound like yourself.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite thing about this band, is I hear the different personalities coming through within our mix.
Yeah. So. How much do you do to consciously take care of your mental health when you're on the road, especially? That's a time when it's so challenging.
Yeah. I have to be on a pretty... I mean, I'm not very strict about hardly any regimen in my life, but on the road I have to be more so. I have to make sure I'm getting exercise every day because you're cooped up in some kind of vehicle for most of the day.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that I'm getting time to myself to write or to do something that puts gas in the tank. And,
yeah.
Yeah, things like that.
Just because we're hoping that mental health becomes a regular conversation with lots of people, what do you think, what message would you have for other young people who might be worried about or ashamed of an illness or behaviors that they're dealing with?
Could you ask that one more time?
Yeah, because we're trying to make sure that young people in particular become more open about speaking about mental health. Do you have any advice for them about dealing with either issues that they're facing or behaviors that they're seeing in themselves that they're concerned about?
Yeah, I think that I see our culture going through a real transition about being able to share communally things like depression, things like mental health. And I think that as a young person, if you keep in mind that that change is happening and you can be a part of that, you can connect with people, that I guess knowing that there are people that want to make that connection, that want to share these things with you.
But starting, good place to start this album,
Yeah.
just by listening to the lyrics and really understanding where you were at the time you wrote it. It's such a beautiful kind of dive into somebody's emotional well-being. So thank you again for writing it. Israel with Blind Pilot.